Hey YouTube, today's the 29th of March and this is going to be a special episode with regards to Apple's event last week. So on the 23rd of March, Apple had an event where they released the new iPhone SE, a new iPad Pro, which is the 9.7-inch version, and there was also a few watch straps released along with iOS 9.3. So let me fill you in. If you would have seen my last video, I think I got pretty much all the guessings right. The event named Let Us Loop You In had definitely something to do with Apple's new offices at One Infinity Loop. So this event was the last event that was going to be held at the Town Hall Auditorium. The iPod and the App Store were released here, and this had some special significance. It is a much smaller auditorium when compared to the one they have at Infinity Loop. Also, I guessed the iPhone SE and the iPad Pro versions correctly. I knew there were a few watch straps coming in, so I got that right. And everybody knows iOS 9.3 was going to be released, so everybody got that right as well. So the event was considerably short when compared to their bigger events in September, when the actual iPhone is being launched. This time we can predict the iPhone 7 to come out in September. So that event's going to be much bigger when compared to the one that we saw last week. Usually there are speculations around what the I in iPhone means and what the SE in the iPhone SE means. Earlier there were rumors that I in the iPhone means internet, which is a load of crap because internet did not exist on the iPod. Yeah, the initial iPod that was released did not have internet, and why was it called iPod? I just brings a more personal feel to it. That is the reason they named it I. I think Steve Jobs mentioned this in one of his earlier interviews. But as for iPhone SE, Apple's senior vice president at worldwide marketing had confirmed that the SE in the iPhone SE means special edition. Is it special? Continue watching the video. I'll let you be the judge of that. The biggest thing that was released last week was the iPhone SE. So let's get started with the iPhone SE. Because of the iPhone 5S and the 5C, smaller phones are starting to become synonymous to lower power with very poor specs. Because there's been no upgrade on the 4-inch displays after the 5S and the 5C. The 6, the 6 Plus, the 6S and the 6S Plus are considerably bigger, and so are their specs. And 4-inch phones were very weakly spec'd the last time we saw them. That's all going to change now. The 5SE is come and it's almost matching in specs to the 6S and minus the 3D touch. That's going to be a big plus for the people who love 4-inch phones. All the changes in specs have been with their 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch phones. There has been no change in their 4-inch phones since the iPhone 5S and the 5C, but Apple still has managed to sell more iPhones of the 4-inch model in the past year than in any of their previous years. This says a lot because people are still happy with the 4-inch displayed phones, probably because they have smaller fingers or because it fits better in their pocket. I personally moved on from the 4-inch phones. I don't think I'll be ever able to use a 4-inch phone again because I find it absolutely tiny and I have chunky fingers and it's really hard for me to type on those phones. I've started to use my phone more for emails now. Earlier it used to be just games and videos. And for all of these things, I think the 6S Plus is the perfect screen size for me. The 5.5-inch display works perfectly for me for all the applications I do. I think having a split screen mode on the 6S Plus would be a brilliant addition, but I think we'll have to wait until the next version of iOS for that to come in, or probably even iPhone 7 for that to come in. Okay, I'm getting diverted here. Let's go back to the iPhone 5 SE. In terms of specs, the iPhone SE matches that of the iPhone 6S minus the 3D touch. But for people who are moving to the SE from the 5S and the 5C, they are going to feel the difference. They are going to see the power of iOS. And all this is £359 in the iPhone SE when compared to the £539 of the base model iPhone 6S, which is kind of a £180 difference, which is quite a bargain for just the difference of the screen size. So if you don't think it's a good deal, then you'll have to think again, because minus the size, the power is exactly the same. And if you are someone who prefers the smaller phones, then this is a perfect deal for you. There is absolutely no compromise, minus 3D touch, but no compromise in any other way. So I, I think people will like this phone. I think Apple has decided to cut the goose that lays the golden egg here, because exclusivity is one of the factors that the iPhone was special in the developing markets, like India and China at least. And I know for sure that China is one of the biggest consumers of Apple products in the past year. With the iPhone SE, I think a lot more people are going to afford the iPhones, so it's going to lose that brand factor a little bit, not too much, but it's going to be a big benefit for Apple, because it's definitely going to sell more iPhones than before, with the cheaper cost especially. But Apple Music and the App Store are going to take off like crazy, because everyone is going to have an iPhone in their hand now. So I think it's kind of a good move, because once you're hooked onto iOS, I think it's a little hard to go back to Android. I think Apple is banking on this uh, by putting an iPhone in every consumer's hand. So let's see how that goes. And if you think it's a budget phone, well, in terms of cost, it is, but in terms of specs, definitely not. If you're someone who likes the 4-inch displays and you're still stuck on the 5S or the 5C, then you don't even have to think twice to buy this phone. Just go for it. You're going to love this phone. In terms of specs, the camera and everything is absolutely awesome on this. You're going to love the speed on which this phone is going to perform. iOS is just going to be a whole new experience for you, so just go for this. Moving on to the iPad Pro, a 9.7-inch iPad Pro was released. This is the smaller sister to the 12.9-inch iPad Pro that was released a few months ago. Moving straight into the disadvantages, because there are not many. The 9.7-inch iPad Pro only has 2 gigs of RAM, while the 12.9-inch iPad Pro had 4 gigs of RAM. Kind of a bummer, because if you're calling it the Pro, you might as well put everything you've got into it. Having said that, this iPad is no slouch, because 2 gigs of RAM works perfectly well for iOS. It's kind of very well optimized, so it's going to be sufficient, but yeah, I think they could have gone for 4 gigs here. It runs on an A9X chip with an M9 core processor, and as I said, 2 gigs of RAM. It has support for Apple Pencil, which is kind of good. I like the Apple Pencil, because normally you think when you're writing something, this part of your hand, and probably your left hand as well if you're a right-handed person, you keep it on the iPad, and you might think that all these touches are being recognized by the display, but that doesn't happen, because the iPad is clever enough for you to be able to use the pen without your fingers or your palms interference coming on to the display, which is kind of amazing. They've pretty much thought of it very deeply. I like that with the Apple Pencil, and this iPad has support for the Apple Pencil, which is quite good. And apart from that, it has a 12 megapixel camera in the rear, which is similar to the 6S Plus. It's going to have optical image stabilization, which is going to be really good for taking pictures. For all you people who like taking pictures with your iPad, it's not weird at all. It also has 4K video recording capabilities with the rear camera, and the front camera is a 5 megapixel camera. You can do FaceTime or take selfies with it. And the biggest plus is it has 4 speakers instead of 2. The iPad Air and the original iPad had 2 speakers at the bottom. This is okay, because it's kind of mono sound. If you're holding it in a portrait way, then it's okay. But when you're holding it in landscape for watching a movie or something, I think 4 speakers are going to make a big difference. If you're planning on upgrading your iPad mini or your iPad Air or even your original iPad, then I think the iPad Pro 9.7-inch is going to be pretty good for you if you have the money to spare. If you have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, then I don't think this iPad release matters to you at all. Apple claims that the new iPad Pro has a True Tone display. A lot of people have started using the iPad for reading books, so I think the True Tone display is going to make a big difference for them. What True Tone display means is, if you're reading a paperback and you take it outdoor, it reflects sunlight differently. It's a much cooler shade of white. And when you bring it indoor, it reflects your bulbs in your house, and that's a much warmer shade. An iPad doesn't do the same because it emits light rather than reflecting light. Because of this, it's kind of neutral all the time. Outside, I think it's kind of okay because the sunlight is definitely brighter than your iPad. But when you come indoor, uh, it's kind of a white light that's hitting your face when it's kind of a yellowish shade in your room, and this is not very comfortable for your eyes. And true tone display is where there are sensors, or probably the camera, that understands what kind of light you are having in your environment, and it adjusts the display's brightness, and it tints to a warmer or a cooler shade of white depending on your environment. So this is a huge plus for people who use their iPads for reading a lot. And Apple also claims that this is the brightest display they've ever shipped on any iPad. So, not just on any iPad, on any tablet ever released. So, that's kind of a bold statement because I find the Samsung tablets to be really bright. I'm really looking forward to seeing the 9.7-inch iPad Pro because I don't see it being brighter than OLED displays. Let's see. It comes in three versions: a 32 gig, a 128 gig, and a 256 gig iPad version. 256 gigs on an iPad is quite amazing because it's almost as much as the new MacBook Airs have. Apple seems to be going on about how the iPad Pro is a Windows PC replacement and how people who are using Windows PC as their main driver are moving to iPad Pro and using that as their main driver. Mm, I don't see that to be logical at all, unless you use your PC just for browsing the internet and watching probably some videos of the internet. Personally, I don't think iOS can ever replace macOS 10 or Windows for me because I do so much more with my laptop than I'd be able to do with an iPad. Video editing, they claim that it's very fast and it's very good, but it's not going to work for me because multitasking is a big uh, deal breaker. It's not as comfortable to use an iPad Pro in terms of editing, in terms of connecting accessories and things like that. It's never going to be a replacement for a Mac or a PC, at least until iOS gets considerably better. I'll be happy if they put Mac OS 10 on the iPad. Probably I'll think about moving to it, and they might have to add a USB port as well, but that could be the only thing that could make me replace my MacBook Pro with an iPad, but it's just a marketing stunt. I don't think iPad Pro will replace a Windows PC. What this Let Us Loop You In event has done is it's brought refresh cycles much more earlier. So this means every year we'll have an event at around March timelines and one major event during the September timelines, and probably something in mid-June, July for an iPad or a MacBook release, which is kind of good. Having earlier release cycles gets you in front of your competition, which is better for us as a consumer because there's more innovation that's coming in, and it's good for Samsung as well because they'll find it easier to copy things. If you have an iPhone 6s Plus and a bigger iPad Pro and you love both of these things, then this event means nothing to you because it's just smaller versions of what you already have. But if you're thinking of upgrading from what you already have in terms of an iPhone 5s or a 5C and an iPad Air 2, then this is the event for you because I think you'll love the iPhone SE and you'll also love the new iPad Pro. Now, moving on to the watch straps, there is a new woven nylon watch strap that's come out. It's kind of girly, I don't like it that much. And there's also a space gray Melanese loop. I like that one, and I already have one of those. I got it from the US. iOS 9.3 is out as well. This means the jailbreak is not very far away. So do not upgrade if iOS 9.3.1 comes out because the jailbreak is going to be on iOS 9.3. So stick on to that. I'll keep you posted on the jailbreak updates and also what's new with technology. So until my next video, take care.